2020. Our invocation this evening will be offered by Lupe Moy, member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Lupe? Oh, here you are. Okay. If you would please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our kind and gracious Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. We are so grateful for this beautiful day, and we're grateful for all that we have. We come before you at the beginning of the City Council meeting and give thanks for the opportunity of the freedoms that we have to enjoy. Freedom of the press, freedom of choice, freedom of religion, freedom of speech. We ask thee that this is a hard time with COVID and intense election choices, and we are grateful to our city officials for all that they do, and our city staff, for volunteers, and especially for our residents. We ask you to be mindful of those that are sick and afflicted, those that are disabled and homeless, our vulnerable population, our seniors, and our children. We ask thee that thy spirit be with us this day, that we will go according to our agenda, and that we'll be fair, and that we'll be respectful of others and their comments. And we ask thee to help us all to live in this beautiful land of America. These favors and blessings we ask thee for in the name of thy beloved Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmembers Huff.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
DeLucy.
Here.
Steinmeier.
Here.
Hobart.
Here.
Mayor Weir.
Here. We do have some citizens who requested to speak to the council this evening. The first is Evelyn Bray, who wishes to speak to the council regarding Kentucky Place development. Ms. Bray.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Bray. I live at 500 Colonel Drive, Independence, Missouri, 64050. I ask the council to vote no on the proposed Kentucky Place development. There is a valid legal protest of 35 of my property owners that are neighbors within 185 feet of the development. We, the people who live in Kentucky Hills, will be negatively impacted by this development every day. We will have further problems with sanitary and stormwater sewers. We will have problems with increased traffic and street parking. We will have further problems with the overfull, crowded Mill Creek School. These will be rental duplexes smack in the middle of a single-family established neighborhood from the 1950s and 60s. The development doesn't fit in with the neighborhood of single-family dwellings. There is no solid plan for maintenance of duplexes and common areas, since the developer indicated that he plans on keeping some to rent out. He will be the majority owner, even with an HOA. His agent hasn't maintained the property in the past, noting the numerous code violations that have been issued in the last 3 years. We have had to live with this. And he plans on using the same agent for the new HOA that he has proposed. I wish you would vote against this. I beg of you to vote against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jana Evans, who requests to speak to the council on behalf of KHHOA regarding the isosceles development in Kentucky Hills. Ms. Evans?
Deanna Evans, 3403 North Delaware, Independent, 64050. Can you hear me? I had dropped off some handouts to Becky just a little bit ago. Actually, they're just informational for you because I wasn't able to make one for everybody. What I had is, we would like for you to see what we see. So I have photographs of what we've been looking at for the last 3 years and what we anticipate we would continue to look at if this development goes forward. I have submitted to you an informal neighborhood petition with 338 signatures against the development. You have previously been given a formal legal petition with 36 signatures. I know that a lot has been said, and I really didn't want to just keep beating a dead horse, but I kind of just wanted to touch on the fact that there's not been a lot of transparency, and there hasn't been really any interest in collecting our feedback, those of us that have been there, and will continue to be there regardless of what happens. And that is just something that I would like for you all to take into account when you vote. I've given pictures of the inside of this building. It has sat there in total disrepair. It was deemed a dangerous building, and then a Band-Aid was slapped on it, and here it still sits. I feel like we can just anticipate that this is what we will have even with new builds that they would put in. Their property management company has an F rating with the Better Business Bureau, and they are not accredited. And I gave you information on that from both their own website, where they have some reviews, and Google reviews, which are poor. So please, please listen to what we want. And this is not a place for infill. There's nothing to benefit a development like this in the middle of Kentucky Hills. We don't have anything to offer. Really, the only thing that we do have to offer is what they're wanting to take away, which is our open space that we've had that's been common space. Even though it changed hands, unfortunately, this is something that we can't get back. Once it's built on, it's gone. We don't have any place to go to get replacement open space. And it will be a huge detriment to our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jason Shoup, who requests to speak to the council regarding COVID-19 restrictions. Mr. Shoup.
Thank you very much. Do I have to keep this on?
Yes.
It's very muffling.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Jason Shoup. I personally want to thank each of you for taking the time to hear my story and allow me to share with you the negative effects that COVID-19 restrictions have had on myself and my children. I'm originally from Southeast Missouri. I moved here on September 14th when I obtained employment through the state of Missouri as a probation and parole officer. I currently live in the city of Independence. I moved here in hopes of starting a new life and giving my children more opportunities. I have 2 young boys that are ages 8 and 5. I am their primary custodial parent, and they live with me full time. I left my children residing with my parents in Southeast Missouri until I could establish a stable home in a good school district. I finally did so and was ready to transfer my children to Independence to start school. The issue that I was then faced with was the schools informing me that they had capacity restrictions due to COVID-19 pandemic. I was told that their only option was to enroll in virtual learning. This created a plethora of problems for me as a single parent. There is no way for me to be at home with them and still work in my state occupation. The school has even tried to offer me solutions of sending them to private schools. As you know, private schools are quite expensive and really not a logical solution to sending them to the free public school. They also told me that they could send them to another public school in the area if there was an available spot. However, this caused another issue because that meant they would not be provided bus transportation to or from school, which meant I would be responsible for getting them to and from school every day. I quickly began to see that every solution that was offered to me was either highly costly or highly inconvenient. As a tax-paying citizen and a new resident of this city, this is difficult for me to accept. If my children are unable to attend school, my only alternative is to quit my job and move back to Southeast Missouri. Children at the ages of 8 and 5 cannot be left home alone. The situation at hand is due to no fault of my own and causing me many problems. Our country wants people to return to work so we can efficiently run our economy again. However, people in my position potentially have to quit their jobs because their children simply aren't allowed to attend school. I say this with the utmost intensity. No child should ever be told they cannot go to school. How do you look an 8 or 5-year-old in the face and tell them they can't attend school with the other children and enjoy learning in class in front of a teacher instead of in front of a computer screen? My current understanding is that the school I was trying to enroll them in had 2 third graders ahead of my son on the waiting list. I despise knowing that there are other children out there also being told they aren't allowed to go to school. This weekend, I had to look my 8-year-old son and my 5-year-old son in the face and tell them that their father was unable to enroll them in school. I was not at all an easy thing to explain to such young boys. I had to tell them that I failed to give them a new life that they were so excited for. They were ready to move to the city of Independence to be with their father. They were excited about moving here and seeing their new school and meeting new friends. These things are simply not possible through a computer screen. I am lucky to work for good people who I can bring these matters to, who are trying to help me find a solution. I could potentially end up without a job. I have just signed a 1-year lease on a home that I now have to break. This will cost me to forfeit my $895 deposit, as well as potentially have to pay another $895 in rent for the month of December when I won't even be living there. I was very lucky, seeing as how my landlord has every right to take me to court for breaking a lease, especially after only 1 month of living there. The most likely outcome of this situation for me is to move back to Southeast Missouri. That is probably what will happen. I'll be thrown further into debt, and I'll still be paying on a home I don't even live in. That will make it harder for me to get back on my feet and find another place to live. I wanted to move here to start a new life. My biggest fear was that the schools would shut down because of COVID-19. I never one time anticipated that I wouldn't be able to enroll my children in school at all.
You have 1 minute.
I hope that my story hits home with some of you today. I'm sure if you look hard enough, you will realize that you know someone in a similar situation. It isn't fair and it isn't right. My children and I are suffering from something that is not in our control. I hope that more parents are given the opportunity to let their voices be heard. My children deserve to be able to go to school, and I deserve to be able to go to work so that I can provide them with the best life possible. Thank you for your time, and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Shoup. Our next speaker is Joe Rowe, requested to speak to the council regarding bill number 20076.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. John Rowe with the Rowe Law Firm.
Oh, pardon me, John.
That's okay. Address for the record is 4444 North Bellevue Avenue, and I represent the owner of the property, the applicant for the preliminary development plan that's before you, Isosceles Properties, and the representative of Isosceles, Ryan Rader, is also here with me this evening. Just a couple of comments. I know you've heard from some opponents on this, and I want to be sure that as you consider this application that we're all clear about a couple of things. The property that's the subject of the application is already zoned. The City of Independence zoned that property District R30 PUD. We are not asking for zoning. It's already zoned R30 PUD. Your zoning ordinance identifies what that means. The R means it's a residential district. The 30 means there can be 30 units per acre. And the PUD is a planned unit development designation that your ordinance says has to be placed on every property that's zoned R30 in the city. So that's already there. The application in front of you deals with a piece of property that's about 2.5 acres in size. So under your ordinance, there could be about 75 units placed on this property under the zoning that the city council placed on this property. My client wants to take this underutilized piece of property and make it a productive piece of property and place thereon 22 units, 11 duplex buildings times 2 units per building, 22 units. Less than a third of the zoning, of the density that's allowed by the zoning that the city put on this property. And a couple other things that are interesting about this. A couple people have mentioned that, you know, it's a single-family area. This property, this 2.5 acres, was carved out of the neighborhood. It's not part of that Kentucky Hills subdivision. This is called Solid Rock Addition. Again, the City of Independence created this subdivision. To the extent that people might be thinking, well, gee, you should put single family on there. Your own ordinance, 14-300, Table 300-1, has a list of permitted uses in the R30 PUD district. A 2-unit house, what my client wants to put on this property, is designated with a P on there for permitted use. So this application that's before you is for a permitted use at less than a third of the density that the city allows on this property. You know what's not permitted? A detached house. Your ordinance defines detached house as a single-family house. That is not a permitted use in this district on this property. Yet everybody wants to say, we want single-family there. It's not an allowed use. I turned that in as an exhibit to the Planning Commission. It's exhibit number 2. I didn't really see in the minutes an exhibit 2 called out, but I brought it tonight. The other thing I wanted to take a minute or two to talk about is your comprehensive plan. Again, I marked selected provisions of this as exhibit 3 and turned it into the Planning Commission. I would note that at the very beginning, you know, the city, rightfully so, brags on itself about what an involved process this was and how you won an award for your comprehensive plan. Well, guess what your comprehensive plan says? You want to create vibrant, safe neighborhoods that are walkable and offer diverse uses, services, and get this, and housing options for all. One of your guiding principles, provide a diversity of housing options in all neighborhoods. We have a duplex project proposed for this area. Here is a golden opportunity for the city to implement one of its guiding principles under its comprehensive plan to provide housing options in all neighborhoods. You have other places here, I know my time's running here. Promote a mix of housing types within each neighborhood to provide options for households of all types, singles, families, retirees, etc., and people of all incomes and ages. You have an application, a preliminary development plan that would dovetail precisely with that goal of your comprehensive plan. Last couple of comments. There are a list of criteria in your ordinance, 14-703-05, 10 criteria by which our application should be judged. I don't have time here tonight to go through 10 points, but I did turn in a letter, and we meet all 10 of those points. The staff said that we should be turned down for 5 reasons. One of them is the residential infill development standards of 14-505, we wouldn't be compatible with that. Well, guess what? In this exhibit number 2 that I referenced, I'll turn to it here. There's another column down the right-hand side after all of the permitted uses called Use Standards. And within the household living, the residential portion, R30, 14-505 is listed as a use standard, that's your infill housing, on just about every one of the residential line items. Guess which residential line item, your infill housing standards, is not listed as a use standard? 2-unit houses. So why is the city staff saying, as a reason to turn this project down, you don't comply with the infill standards, when infill standards is not one of the use standards that we have to comply with? Number 2, the orientation of the duplex driveways will create traffic flow and parking problems along Pleasant and Spring Street. No, you have an ordinance that says we have to provide 2 off-street parking spaces for every unit. And we have provided 2 off-street parking spaces for every unit. We also had a traffic engineer turn in a report, it's in your packet. This isn't going to cause a problem. 3, the old storm and sanitary sewer systems in place in the area are operating near their limits. Turned in a letter at the Planning Commission from your Public Works Department from when Mr. Rader brought in a project a year ago with 38 units that said, we can handle that. He didn't pursue that project. He listened to what the neighbor said, reduced his density by 40%. We're now down to 22. Got rid of the 2-story buildings, got rid of the multi-unit buildings. We now have single-story buildings. And the staff is still saying you don't operate at your limits. If it was okay at 38 units, it's going to be okay at 22 units. 4th reason, staff alleged we didn't turn in a rough draft of our covenants for maintenance of the common tract. Yeah, we did. It's Exhibit 9 at the Planning Commission, and it's in your packet. 5th reason, the amenity provided, a gazebo, is not adequate. Well, another exhibit that's in your packet is the letter from the staff that said, what are your amenities? And then they gave us, for example, and one of which was a gazebo. So we picked one of the staff's suggested amenities and put it on our plan, and now the staff says the amenity provided, a gazebo, is not adequate. I think what we're up against here is, you know, there's a mindset that we're just not going to allow anything. A couple of letters in your packet, I'll just pick a couple here. These are from opponents in your packet. Keeping it the much-needed green space is desired by myself and many others that reside here.
You have 1 minute.
Please consider our rejection of the development of multi-housing in our neighborhood green space. Mr. Rader owns this property. It was for sale and he bought it. The neighborhood didn't buy it. But yet, it's our green space. Ms. Evans, who spoke, wrote a letter in opposition. We're asking the Planning Commission to help us preserve the single amenity our neighborhood has left. And she ends her letter by saying, there is no good plan for any other use of this property other than its intended use, and we will never stop saying no. But we get accused of no transparency and not getting their input. Their input is, we are going to say no to everything you do unless it's used for our green space. Last comment I'd make, we're not asking for rezoning. Been a couple of comments about a legal protest. Legal protest isn't applicable here because we're not asking for rezoning. When this comes up, I'm respectfully asking the City Council to apply the criteria, because when you do, it'll lead you to the conclusion that this project should be approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Katie Alexander, who wishes to speak to the council regarding an independent school district and plans for businesses and schools. Mrs. Alexander.
Hi, I'm Katie Alexander, and I live at 3427 South Hardy. And the reason I want to talk to you tonight is because I have concerns about the independent school district being in operation and being in classes. The reason for that is because I think it's pretty obvious the reason. But in the outcome of children that have to be quarantined because they've been exposed to the virus, I received a phone call today from a woman who's in a hotel with her ex-husband. There is a reason he is the ex, but they get along fine. So there are 2 children and 2 adults in a hotel so that their 75-year-old grandmother won't be exposed to COVID-19. They are paying rent somewhere. And so with all of the empty buildings in Independence that currently exist, it would seem to me as if someone could come up with some kind of plan to access some kind of emergency funds to allow a family to use an unused classroom or an unused part of an unused church or something, so that they are not paying hotel bills that they cannot afford. She works in a grocery store and he works for himself. So that being said, those children are their responsibility. They had them and it's their job to raise them. And they know that, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to raise them. So I bought a house, as you know, in Independence because of the Bass Pro development, and I am also probably not going to go away, and because I have nowhere to go. So I have to make this community better. So what has happened recently is we have a better response time for the police. They appear with a much better attitude than they used to. So I think some training has happened. Also, we have installed cameras all over the neighborhood, and so we have got it down to where we can resolve to get a license plate. They have done enforcement on the really bad corner that we last talked about. They did a 9-hour enforcement, so efforts are being made. It is a part-time job to do this, and it should not be. So problems with the walking people continue. During the shutdown, they stopped walking, so therefore they're probably not really homeless. Otherwise, they would have been walking during the shutdown. Petty crime is still a significant cost to us. A catalytic converter was the last thing. That's $1,000. It costs money to buy alarms, lights, and dogs. Dogs are very expensive, but it's better than other things that you might use to protect your neighborhood so far. So on our block, every working family has had a crime incident in the last 10 years except one, and they haven't been there long enough for something to happen to them. So I am saying we still need a lot of new police officers. The traffic from Highway 40 is obvious. It's drug traffic, it's stolen cars. They are not delivering pizzas. When they keep driving back and forth, they are not delivering anything except bad things. In addition to that, we tremble when you say the word development in Independence, because we think developers should be required to demonstrate good citizenship prior to the inclusion to the business community, which should include written published results from prior communities that they have developed in. Their record should be clear, and we should not continue to import financially unstable residents. We should not be having halfway houses, pre-release centers, and other things that pose as economic development. We should be having economic development, and if we cannot find people to economically develop internally, I cannot imagine how that could not be happening.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you. So what I am saying is that part of the problems in Independence is because people decided they wanted to go in the multifamily business about 15 years ago. And as a social worker in downtown Kansas City, my clients would come to me and say, I want to move to Independence. They have great public housing out there, and the school systems are good. And I said, that sounds good. That sounds like the American dream. Let's help you get a job. Let's help you get a trade. Let's help you get going so that you can do that. That is the American dream. When you get a skill and you get a job and you can better your circumstances. It is not being sent to somewhere else so that your drug problem won't follow you, because I promise you it has followed. So we all know how I came to be here. The drainage got done, but it should not be a part-time job for residents of Independence to stay on people in order to get what they need. But if that's what's necessary, I have one major, unlike developers, I have one major real estate, and that's my house. So you can imagine how attached I am to the perimeters of my house. And that means all of the walking people that trudge up and down the street, stealing literally everything in sight. Oh, dismiss. That thing says, wake up, everybody. You know, the bottom line is we shouldn't have to live that way. Highway 40 has been a continuous problem for years. If I were working somewhere and I couldn't solve problems, people would start wanting to get rid of me. So if it seems like I'm a little bit out there with you guys, it's because every day I go to work, I'm required to solve problems and get things done. And I expect that too. And then the last thing I would like to say as a Native American person, that it is our job to vote in whatever our conscience is. And I'll be happily doing that tomorrow, and I hope everyone else will too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Our final speaker this evening is David Vogel, who wishes to speak on Kentucky Place Development. Mr. Vogel.
I live across the street from this proposed development, and numerous times over the years, 6 or 8 times, I've seen at least a third of the property underwater. And yet, the developer wants to put houses in there. So we're going to have houses that have been flooded and damaged. And the value, what's going to be the value then? It's going to be very little. So we've had to deal with looking across the street and seeing the property not being maintained. There's a spring on the property, and it runs across the property. It's not been contained underground, so it's just an open ditch. I've not seen any plans from the developer. What are we going to do with the water? It's a spring. It's been tested by water department. It's not treated water, so it's a spring. There's numerous trees around the property. Drop branches all the time. Half of them are rotten. They've got vines growing on them that kill them. And yet, this developer wants to say he's being a good businessman and taking care of this property. No, not happening. Please vote no on this.
Thank you, Mr. Vogel. That concludes our speakers this evening, unless there's anybody online who wishes to speak to the council tonight. Okay, thank you very much. This takes us to our presentations this evening. The first is the presentation of the Susie P. Block Distinguished Public Service Award. And Mrs. Stephanie Marriott, the president of the Junior Service League of Independence, is with us to present the award.
Thank you, Mayor Weir. I appreciate it. As she said, I am here to present the 2020 Susan Paxton Block Distinguished Public Service Award. This award is given to a person for outstanding service in city government. Some of the criteria for the award, I think it's important to know because our recipient this evening really fits the bill. Some of the criteria is achieving significant efficiency in the operation of a program, innovation resulting in improved service or customer responsiveness, service over and above what is normally expected of a job, unsung hero, exceptional quality of a program or facility, and demonstrated measurable excellence in customer service or delivery. The recipient, I am very proud to say, is Mr. Jeff Whitty. Jeff works in the IT department for the City of Independence, and some of the things that the nomination forms listed about Mr. Whitty, the utility center would not be able to help customers during this pandemic without Jeff. He has made it possible for us to work safely at home and limit our own exposures to COVID-19. He's always there whenever we have an issue. He has the patience of a saint. He's been very helpful and essential to our daily operations, and our department would not be able to operate without him. He has been pulled in so many different directions, and he is always positive and patient. He often is helping coworkers that have minimal computer knowledge, and he gives up his time to make sure that they feel comfortable. He truly deserves this award. So on behalf of Junior Service League and the nominating board and those that were sitting to review all of the applicants that, all the applications that came in, all the nomination forms, I would like to take this time tonight to present the 2020 Susan Paxton Block Distinguished Public Service Award to Mr. Jeff Lee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jeff, would you like to come forward? Well, congratulations, Jeff. This is a very, very prestigious award that we have the honor to present every single year. Typically, the Paxton family is here with us on this evening to talk about the late Susie Paxton Block, for whom this award was created. I understand they are not able to be with us tonight. Is that right, Ms. City Clerk?
That is correct.
Okay, but we look forward to seeing them soon, and I know they regret not being here in person, and we always enjoy hearing about their family and their continued dedication to the employees of our city, and of course to the Junior Service League of Independence. So thank you very much. Our next presentation is a recognition award from the Independence School District to the City of Independence. Lynn.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. I'm Lynn Baker. My title is Business to Education Connector. I work both for the Chamber of Commerce and the Independence School District. But tonight I am here representing the Independence School District Academies. The Academies of Independence School District have been successful in teaching our students higher level job skills and preparing them to either enter the job force or to enter college with earned college credits. The academies have been a part of ISD since 2014 with the beginning of the Freshman Academy. As sophomores, the students can then select their career pathway, which will, if followed, result in the student earning an industry-recognized certificate to enter the job market or earned college credit hours to enter college. With grateful appreciation, myself representing the academies and all those administrative, staff members, principals, teachers, staff teachers, students, give this award to the City Council, past and present, and the Mayor, past and present, for your many contributions to the Academy's success. Thank you so very much for making the Academies outstanding. Your help has been appreciated in so many ways. This is for you.
Thank you, Lynn. We appreciate you coming this
Thank you.
evening. Would you just bring this up to the clerk and or she'll come get it. And we will proudly display this award. The Academies has been one of the great successes, no doubt, in our community, and we're so honored to have a role in taking part in the success of the school district and all the students of the Independence School District.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next is our resolution recognizing Terry Peel with Power and Light Department as the Employee of the Month. Madam City Clerk.
Whereas the City Employee Recognition Program recognizes outstanding performance by employees of the City of Independence, and whereas an employee committee selects the Employee of the Month for exhibiting the qualities and ideals that best represent public service. And whereas the Employee Recognition Committee has selected Terry Peel, utility maintenance worker with the Power and Light Department, as the Employee of the Month for November 2020.
Okay, I would entertain a motion for approval on this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Terry, if you are here this evening, yes, why don't you come up and receive your resolution? Thank you. This brings us to our consent agenda, Mayor Pro Tem.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the reports and recommendations of the city manager.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any items any council member wishes pulled for separate consideration?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to pull item number 1, but only part of it, the minutes of October 19,
Okay.
and I'd also like to pull 20-803.
Okay. Are there any other items? I am going to pull 20797. Okay. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll on the consent agenda minus item number 1, 20803, and 20797?
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Councilmember DeLucy, item number 1.
Item number 1, Madam Mayor, is approval of the minutes for October 5 and October 19. And I noticed in the October 19 minutes, there was a Scribner's error on one of the reports, and it was on non-ordinance action item number 1, and I have pointed it out to the city clerk already. And it's a Scribner's error, so we really don't need to amend anything, but I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention before we approved.
Okay, so the error, Madam City Clerk, the error will be corrected in the minutes as approved, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
I move approval of item number 1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Item number 1 passes. Councilmember DeLucy, 20803.
This is a resolution supporting local business, schools, and organizations during the COVID-19 epidemic, which, first and foremost, I always support local business, schools, and organizations with or without a pandemic. That's number 1. Number 2, I do not understand what this resolution does. Section 1 recites that the city is encouraging Jackson County Health Department to eliminate all restrictions in the COVID-19 recovery policies other than the mask mandate and social distancing. And section number 2 says if they don't do it within 30 days, we're going to get together to figure out what we're going to do to promote the health, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for the city of Independence. I do not understand what this resolution does, and I'd like somebody to explain it to me.
Okay. Mr. City Manager, I know this was put on by Council Members Mike Huff and Mike Steinmeier, so I don't know if you have anything to add to this, or we can defer this to the council members if there's a direct question.
Well,
Councilmember
out of
DeLucy?
respect, I would defer to the council members.
Okay, thank you very much.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I know this has become an issue with some. I've read the Jackson County Health Department mandate, the 2.5. If you look at it, I've heard for the second time, it's not well-written, that our resolutions have issues with it, but I've read the Jackson County one. It's not well-written. In fact, it's not even well thought out. But this is the one that we've elected to follow. It talks about a mask. It talks about social distancing. And that's exactly what we're talking about. We're trying to bring our city under our charter, which says that under Section 1.2 and Section 1.3, the powers of the city, that the city shall have all powers of local self-government and home rule. We are responsible for our own. And it says clearly in 1.2 that the limitations imposed by the Constitution and laws of the state of Missouri in this charter, all powers of the city shall be vested in the elected council. We have the ability to self-govern. Our charter says that. I'm not asking for anything different. I'm just saying this phase really restricts the ability for our businesses and our citizens to practice what is fundamentally theirs. The hallmark of American freedom is the right to pursue one's chosen profession, to provide for one's self and the family. When I look at the layers of complications that this mandate has placed on families, it breaks my heart. When I have a gentleman that stands up tonight and addresses the issue of not being able to enroll his children in our schools because there's no room for them, and the school district has been very compliant in the past, but this, if it's affecting him, you know it's affecting others. And our children need to be in school, and they need to learn. And our school district has been brave, and they've done it the right way. And if we can trust our school district to do it the right way, then certainly we, as city leaders, can help our businesses and trust our businesses to do it the right way. Since the first meeting, Madam Mayor, I've had many business owners reach out to me. I had a discussion in Kansas City with a business owner. They watched 16 businesses close the week prior. Madam Mayor, they said to me, we hope that Independence will take the lead because it affects businesses in Jackson County, and we're being affected by it. And don't think for 1 second that we weren't a clean establishment before COVID hit. We were. And I go there, and they are. And I go there because they are clean. They do everything right. She said the only thing that we're doing differently is they've taken tables out. They've minimized our ability to pay the bills. I said 2 weeks ago, restaurants, which are the hardest hit in this city, one of our biggest service industry job sectors is being shrunk by this action. And the problem I have with that is that I shared with this council that a restaurant's not even profitable till they hit about 80% occupancy. So they're operating at a loss at 50%. And I asked back then, and I'll ask again, where's the heart? Where's the compassion for our small businesses? This is nothing more than saying, we trust you. We trust you to do the right thing. We're going to come up with a plan. It's going to include the things that are important to us. We're going to continue to mitigate it. But we need to take control of our economy. And you know what really pains me is really, if we want to talk about the philosophy of essential, if you look the word up essential in the dictionary, it says absolute necessary, extremely important. So let me just get this straight, that all the major corporate box stores, retail environments, they're extremely important and absolutely necessary. What are you saying to small business tonight? Under the same philosophy of essential. What are you saying to the families that can't work in their chosen field of occupation because of this mandate? That they can't pay the bills, they can't pay the rent, they got to move, they possibly have to lose a job because we don't have the desire to sit and talk. It's been 2 weeks. The only person talking to me is Councilmember Huff. We're trying to help and bring relief, Madam Mayor, to our small business, and it's really an issue of trust. Do you trust our small business to continue to comply with this? And will they do it the right way? And is it a way that can be enforced? Because right now, I don't know that there is much enforcement. And if it's costing our economy, if it's costing our families, if it's costing our jobs, then this needs to be revisited and rethought. So tonight, I'm just asking for our council to say, yes, we stand with small business, we trust you, and we want to work with you, and we want to figure out how we can make this work with you.
Councilman Steinmeier,
Yes.
I spoke with you about this morning.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, you certainly did, and so I should include you.
Thank you.
And I-
Councilman
and I-
Huff?
I do.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull this mask on a little bit. I would ask, Madam Mayor, these questions of you, since you're the deal on, or if you have a liaison, I'm not real sure about that, but Had a couple questions, clear my mind here. I read this Jackson County thing too here. It was kind of interesting. And I'll go through it here in a little bit. But question I have is, are you impressed, or your liaison impressed with enforcement of the mandate? And can you give me examples of success or failures?
Councilman Huff, I'm not going to sit up here and be interrogated. I'm happy to discuss this with you. As I said last time this came up, there's many stakeholders that are engaged with this discussion, and I'm happy to have that discussion with you. And as I said to Councilman Steinmeier, when he and I met this morning to talk about, we didn't meet to talk about this, but we were meeting and we had the opportunity to talk about this. So I'm not going to sit up here and answer individual questions, but I would be happy to speak with you to schedule a meeting and share with you the information that has been discussed with me directly, not my liaison. I am a member of our incident command team, which meets twice weekly. I serve on the board of the Mid-America Regional Council, as well as the MACG. Those are public meetings that anyone in this community and any member of this council is invited to participate in and attend. We send to the council every week the what's called the COP report, the weekly update on what is happening in our region with COVID-19. And in tonight's agenda, as we get every 2 weeks, is the report from our own acting health director on COVID-19. So I'm happy to meet with you and go over these things, but I'm not going to sit here tonight and be interrogated and answer individual questions without any preparation.
Well, why I brought this up was because I've got many, many complaints right here. Madam City Clerk, could you show this slide? I've got tons of calls on this, and this is the voting lines up here on the square. You would think that this county would be actively, closely monitoring this. We're trying to figure out by whom. We have people not 6 foot apart. We got a person on the end, don't even have a mask on. You know, what's ironic about this, right across the street from the courthouse, there's deputies and everything else, and people are supposed to be enforcing this, and I'm about enforcement, you know that. The county health department's 3 blocks away. I mean, we've got this going on every day. Besides that, all these people are up there surrounding this. There's no place for the small business person up there to even have any place for people to park. I mean, these guys are just tearing this up. I would, you know, and I read through this thing yesterday, and it's kind of interesting. This is the type of things that I'm just amazed at. It says the following individuals are exempt from required to wear a face covering: those who are deaf and hard of hearing. That makes no sense to me. They are hard of hearing or deaf. I'd have to pull my mask down for them to talk. This is in this mandate. I'm just totally lost.
I'm familiar with it.
Just crazy. It's crazy. So anyway, like I said, I'm all about enforcement. It's not being enforced. We need to move on. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember DeLucy, would you like to make a motion?
Move approval of 20803.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
No.
Stewart?
Yes.
DeLucy?
No.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
No.
Mayor Weir?
No. Item fails. 20797, this is a resolution appointing Yvonne Hall to the Independence Square Advisory Board, the City of Independence, Missouri. Ms. Hall is a shareholder in Blue Ridge Bank and Trust, and I serve on the board for the bank and have a financial interest in the Blue Ridge Bank and Trust, so I'm going to abstain from this vote. But I would, so I need somebody to,
I move approval of
Thank you.
20797.
is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam, is there any discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff? Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
DeLucy?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Weir?
Abstain. Item passes. Okay, this takes us to our public hearing. This is a public hearing for the application received from Independence Everyday Mart for an unlimited retailer of intoxicating liquor with Sunday sales license for Independence Everyday Mart located at 17121 East US 40 Highway. This is a full public hearing. Mr. Scannell.
Yes, Mayor and members of the council, my name is Tom Scannell. I'm the Community Development Director. This application is for a packaged liquor at 17121 East US 40 Highway. This application, or this location, has had a couple previous liquor licenses there. This is new ownership. They intend to operate the business, and that concludes staff's presentation.
Okay, this is a full public hearing. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Are there any comments or questions from the council on the public hearing? Public hearing is closed. Madam City Clerk.
Council action is requested regarding the application received from Independence Everyday Mart for an unlimited retailer of intoxicating liquor with Sunday sales license for the Independence Everyday Mart located at 17121 East US 40 Highway.
Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
DeLucy?
No.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Weir?
Yes. Item passes. This takes us to our non-ordinance action item. Madam City Clerk.
Consideration of First Amendment to the amended and restated service contract between Little Blue Valley Sewer District, LBVSD, and the City of Independence.
Is there any discussion on this item?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I wondered if we could just have a few minutes of explanation from city staff on this.
I would ask our Municipal Services Director, Lisa Phelps, to come up for a quick overview.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Lisa Phelps, the Director of Municipal Services. And Lisa Odell, the Assistant Director of Little Blue Valley Sewer District, is here to answer any questions about the science behind this. But just to give you a brief overview, really the logic behind this is our current, let's start over. Ultimately, over time, this doesn't change the rate that we pay to the sewer district. It's basically changing from a linear 5-year projection to a rolling average over the last 5 years. So it's using more actual numbers instead of projected numbers. And the point of this change is to modify the fluctuation between year to year. Sometimes we'll have jumps that several $100,000 difference, and then the next year it'll drop just based on that projection. And Lisa Odell has some slides. She has one that shows the difference between the projection that we're on versus the linear average, and you'll see that instead of the lines going like this for what we pay to the district year to year, that it really begins to flatten out. It just is a lot easier for us to budget and plan around that. So I'll let Lisa go over a couple more details on this, just the behind the scenes part. If you have questions.
Good evening. Like she said, I'm Lisa Odell. I'm the Assistant Director at the Little Blue Valley Sewer District, and I absolutely appreciate your consideration of this amendment. I think Lisa handled it very well, so I'll try to be really respectful of your time. Like she said, we have service agreements with each of our municipal customers. Those are identical service agreements. Of the many things that they address, they point out, or they are specific about the way that we calculate the flow for which we bill the City of Independence and all of our other municipal customers. So there's this statement here that the flow that we'll bill you on is based on a linear projection. We've had a rate consultant take a look at this methodology. They've recommended a change to, she said, a 5-year average rather than the projection. That recommendation has been reviewed by our Technical Advisory Committee, at which your staff serves, has a seat. It's also been recommended by our Mayor's Advisory Committee, which your esteemed mayor is a member, and then it's been approved by our Board of Trustees. So in order for us to make that change, we'll have to ask each of our customers to amend the service agreement so that we can each have consistent service agreements. So like Lisa said, it's pretty straightforward here. Rather than projecting out 4 quarters based on your last 5 years of flow, we'll just bill based on your average. And so that's it's protection against a really wet weather event right at the end that would cause kind of the slope of that line to increase arbitrarily. So with that, I would take any questions.
Questions? Okay,
Appreciate it.
thanks,
Thank you.
Lisa. Is there any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
DeLucy?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes, item passes. This takes us to our second readings. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 20-081, an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to execute a certain contract for sale of real estate in exchange for payment of $84,000 for land designated as city surplus property on Perry Road and to do all the things necessary to consummate said sale. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
DeLucy?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart? Mayor Ware?
Yes, ordinance passes.
Bill number 20-082, an ordinance authorizing a contract with Pyramid Excavation and Construction, Inc. in the amount of $963,867 for the installation of pipe and water main on Walnut Street from Leslie Avenue to Lee Summit Road, appropriating $230,259 from the Water Department's unreserved retained earnings to the capital account number 704020004, and authorizing future minor change orders not to exceed $96,387 and/or time extensions. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins? Stewart?
Yes.
DeLucy?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes, ordinance passes. This takes us to our first readings.
Bill number 20-076, an ordinance approving a preliminary development plan for a tract of land located at 3206 North Spring Street in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 20-083, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of a 2020 Spartan Custom 4-door aluminum squad pumper fire truck from Precision Industries, Inc. for $550,783 and making the necessary appropriations. Bill number 20-084, an ordinance amending Chapter 4 of the City Code, Building, Plumbing, and Electrical Installations by adding a new Article 16, Vacant Structure Registration and Maintenance, and amending the Dangerous Building and Unsafe Building section of Chapter 4. Bill number 20-085, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District R18 PUD Medium Density Residential Planned Unit Development to District R6 Single Family Residential for properties generally located between Truman Road and 14th Street and between the Union Pacific Railroad right-of-way and Hardy Avenue in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 20-086, an ordinance amending Article 3, Curfew, Parental Responsibility of Chapter 12 of the Independence City Code.
Okay, thank you very much. This takes us to council member comments. I will start on my left with Councilman Hobart.
None tonight, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Steinmeier.
Not tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember DeLucy.
You are getting off easy. I have nothing tonight.
Councilman Huff.
Nothing this evening.
Councilman Perkins.
I'll go. Thank you, Madam
Okay.
Mayor. So last Thursday, it was my pleasure. Councilman Hobart was also with us, and our city manager, Zach Walker, went out with our PD officers and our homeless outreach individuals from around the town. I want to say thanks to Amber and Matt McLaughlin, Officer Abraham, Kim Bloss from Salvation Army, Mariah Clark, Doug Cowan from CSL, Chance Dolan, Captain Durst, Wayne Smith, Rachel Hermes, and Jonathan Roberts, and Ben McDowell from Drum Farm. We went out and broke up into teams and looked at some of the different houseless, homeless encampments that are around town. Walked with the outreach team, spoke to some of the men and women who were down on their luck, living in the way that they live. So it was quite an eye-opener, so I want to say thanks for our PD for pulling that together. And I know we had we had a study session about our homeless situation a week ago. So we're taking the right steps, getting the right people connected. So it's a much great need, and we're moving forward. So thanks to everybody that was there last Thursday.
Thank you. Councilman Stewart.
Just a couple of things. Just election day tomorrow, just encourage everybody to go exercise your constitutional right and go vote, regardless of your party. And then I had a question about the whole debacle at Independence Center. I realize there's going to be we're asking us to change an ordinance. Just want to feel assured that there's some kind of plan in place beyond that to stop anything from happening again.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilmember. I know I've had a chance to speak with Councilmember Steinmeier, expressed a big concern about that as well, given, the economic engine that is in our city and in his district as well. Last week, Chief Halsey had a chance to meet with management from the mall, from the center. I think we identified some real opportunities, be remiss if I didn't say some deficiencies as well that need to be addressed. There's going to be a follow-up meeting scheduled here very soon to see some of the progress we're making. I would look at the curfew ordinance as a step. I don't think it's a be-all, end-all, but we certainly want to give both our residents and the folks who come from out of the community to shop there, particularly heading into the retail holiday season, every assurance that that is going to be a safe, friendly experience for them. So I think that is but a step. I think the conversations need to continue, and I assure you we'll take an aggressive tone and stance with our partners at the mall to make sure that we have an asset that we can all be proud of and feel safe when we go.
Yeah, I actually worked at a couple of malls that closed, Bannister towards the end and Blue Ridge as well in security. So I couldn't even imagine the city if we lost our mall. So we need to figure something out.
Right, as one of 2 indoor malls left in the entire metro, we really need to do everything we can to help with that. So thank you.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to remind the community that our free saliva-based COVID testing in the City of Independence is ongoing. It's the demand has been very encouraging. There's a number of people that have taken advantage of that opportunity. I understand that all of the spots that we had been made available for today were filled, but you certainly can go on our city website and register for a testing location. We also are in need of volunteers to assist us with these testing events. It's completely safe. I want to assure you of that. This is a self-administered test, so you don't need to have any type of contact with the folks who are coming through to be tested, but we just need some help in getting people through the process and explaining what the protocol is for administering the test. We've partnered with a lab in Lenexa, so our test results are back within 24 to 48 hours is what we've been experiencing. So this council approved use of some of our CARES Act money to purchase this test and to organize these contracts to allow us to provide free testing to our community, and we will continue that for as long as the tests last. We have purchased I think about 7,000 tests, so our goal is to do 1,000 tests per week for as long as they last. We continue to hear from health professionals worldwide that the best thing that we can do in the face of this virus at this time is to test and to trace. So if you are able, whether or not you are displaying symptoms or feel that you have been exposed, if you are inclined, we encourage you to please come and take advantage of this free testing in Independence. Mr. City Manager, is there anything else this evening?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
We are adjourned.